Well, howdy, everybody. It is the RambleCast. Today is March 5th, 2025. I'm your host, Cody Toombs, and with me I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
So, sorry for the slightly belated start. It's a very belated start. I'm exhausted. I'm running slow. I've been awake too many hours. Corbin also samesies, I believe.
Roughly, and us, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just a lot. It's one of those years.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's year 20 of 2020.
Right. Yeah. It's still
It's the
February
87th month
2020.
of 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just feel constantly like people like to say they're out of spoons when they're sort of just totally depleted. I've been running on like negative spoons for a while now.
Corbin
I've
is
seen the
consuming his
spoon
soup
black
through a
hole.
straw.
Yeah, I'm all out of spoons. Those are long gone. I don't know where they went.
Really quick, hello to Metric Brawl and Austin for having said hi, and of course, Brawl pointing out, Corbin, you old brother.
I'm not. Get off my lawn. Austin said, "I feel you. This year's been bad for me." Yeah, I know. Everything sucks right now, and all we can do is talk about things that don't matter, because we just need that. We just need to be angry at something that doesn't matter. That's a good strategy. And speaking of being mad at things that don't matter, Mobile World Congress is this week. It's been ongoing, and I mentioned this before we started, but I haven't really seen anything from Mobile World Congress this year that I care about. Like, I saw Lenovo and Dell slash Alienware had a lot of announcements. A lot of it is like new laptops with newer internal hardware, whatever. A lot of it feels like this year especially there's been a lot of concept hardware, which is a company going to Lenovo did some concept stuff. I want to say I'm going to throw in Razer in there. I don't know if they did it at this time, but Razer loves doing concept stuff. Like almost every time I see an embargoed news item from them, it's like something cool they made in Photoshop that they want sites to write about. And I don't really like covering the concept stuff because I think it kind of bled over from like the car industry, because car manufacturers have done this for decades, where they'll make like a cool car and then like they'll work from there and it'll become a real product and eventually be much more boring than the concept they showed off. But at least there's sort of like a noticeable train of development as it goes on most of the time. But it feels when it gets to be like tech, like just laptops and phones and stuff, it feels a little bit more silly. Like I start getting the vibe of like, you don't actually have a product that's new for me to write about, so you made this thing that chances are will not be a product, but you're like, we made one of them and it's on a show floor, you can come take pictures of it, doesn't it look cool? And I get a little tired of those. Like, yeah, it's cool. You made a laptop that has like a three-fold folding screen. Not gonna deny that's neat. I'm sure it's fun to watch videos of that and stuff. But come back to me when it has FCC certification and has a pre-order date. Like, I can also make cool Photoshop images. That's not what a lot of companies are doing, but I have seen some that get pretty close to that.
Well, now you're just describing what happens at CES.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit forgiving in some instances. Like, I feel like a company is allowed to do the occasional concept thing anyway. Like, and I don't want to say concept because there's that distinction in concept where it's it literally what we just made fun of, like just photoshopping something that you think you want to build someday. There's that kind of a concept. Take it easy, Brawl. Have a good sleep. And then there is the concept where it, like the concept car, where somebody built it, like it's a real physical thing.
There was engineering effort here. You accomplished something.
Yeah, and to some extent, maybe you didn't build the full proper thing. And what I mean by that is maybe, maybe you built the concept race car, but if you ever actually put this thing on a racetrack, it's gonna fall apart or explode on you. Okay, that's one version of it. There's also the concept car where it's actually totally a real thing. It totally can do the things you say it can do, and it's totally good for all of that stuff. However, you can't reproduce this in any sort of functional matter. So like you mentioned, the triple folding screen, or
right, like the things Samsung brings to every CES, MWC, when their display department goes crazy again and makes, like, the one thing, like, maybe the most concept there has ever been is every company that has made a folding phone that's like those like rollable screens that have a phone. Those are, I swear I see those every year at like all these big events, and it never becomes a real thing because like no one has the technology to get that to like a yield of we successfully made 100,000 of these screens. Like, no one's doing that.
Right.
So it's just perpetually like every year, like, guys, check out the rollable thing. It feels like I know you haven't seen this movie because you're very far out of the demographic for it, but like in the Jimmy Neutron movie, there's a bit where Sheen goes up to the show and tell and shows his Ultra Lord figure for show and tell, and the teacher's like, Sheen, this is like the 5th week in a row you've shown Ultra Lord for show and tell in class. That's what the foldable things feel to me. It's like, I've seen that. Like, it's still cool. Like, it's cool. I don't want to be like a grumpy, like, oh, it's not a real product, but I just get annoyed when that's like most of what these shows are.
Yep.
Especially when there's the expectation of like it's coming out, and because that's the only thing happening, then there needs to be like news articles about it, and the news articles a lot of the time, either on purpose or accidentally, make it sound like it's a real product. So to me, it kind of comes like there's a vibe of like advertising that isn't really advertising. I don't know. It just gives me a weird vibe, so I get annoyed by it when it's at a certain extent. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. So, I will fully acknowledge, and what I was
also real quick. Some companies also do this thing that the word concept does also lost a little bit of meaning, because I've definitely seen 1 or 2 announcements that are like, here's our concept laptop. It's coming out in 8 months. It's like, so does it concept or does like, which one of those is it?
Oh, you know what? Okay, you actually did remind me. There is one other version of concept besides what I listed, and it is what you said, but let me finish what you said. Today, this is what we built and what we think we're releasing in that, and what we think we're going to release, but we still haven't hit the deadline where we aren't going to change anything again. So today, this is what it looks like. In 2 months, we might come back, or well, no one will see this, but in 2 months, we might be sitting in a board meeting saying, okay, we need to finalize something. Are we happy with what we showed off? or do we want to change the screen size, or do we want to add a key to the keyboard? Are we gonna, what's the latest fad that we're gonna take advantage of? Those things I think I can forgive, because usually the changes that they're making are probably trivial, or they're gonna add something that's like, we're adding the Windows Copilot key because Microsoft is going to pay us X number of dollars if we make sure that's on this model, or
That's
whatever.
definitely like the concept car route is like, here's our starting point, and then whatever it looks like by the time it gets through all the like government mandated safety testing, that's what we end up with.
Yeah, we're going to show you the we're going to show you the home of the future. And like in all the press materials, home of the future looks great. Then you get the actual real life built thing, and it's like, okay, we have mandatory outlets here, and here. There's an exit sign right there because we have people who are allowed to walk through this place. We have this thing over here. None of this stuff was in the pictures. Don't worry about it. It's just how it goes. Yeah, so, that's all. It is what it is kind of stuff. Which kind of goes along with like how advertising photos of products never show like the power cords, because the power cords don't look good, but you have to have them on products. Anyway, so what I was going to say, like, 4 times now before it kept getting derailed, I'm willing to forgive some amount of the concept products that aren't real, but they're they're legitimately on the path to being real, and they are going to make a real impact once they hit. So like the tri-folding screen or the rollable screens, that stuff's BS for right now. Like, maybe someday, well, I think rollable actually will happen someday. Trifold, I'm sure could happen, but I don't think is going to, because I don't think anyone's ever actually going to want that product. But the thing is, those for right now, what they're showing off, what we're seeing, yeah, it's pretty much just fantasy. And so that doesn't really matter yet. But if you show off a product that has, this isn't an example that ever actually was shown off at any event like that, but I'm just going to use it. And it's funny because history obviously showed that this would have been a bad thing, but think about like when Apple trialed the Touch Bar. With the first time they put that onto a laptop, it came out, and sure, there were people who were against it. There were people who liked the idea, even if they later would flip around and hate it, whatever. But the practical reality is that was a pretty big change. It was interesting. It undeniably had an impact, even if it was a negative one. And I think if that had been shown off at an event, even if at the time it would have been a concept, that's something that's worth writing about and talking about, because not because Apple did it, but because here's a company that did something that's different. It's interesting. It actually kind of addresses the fact that people weren't using the function key row the way that the function key row had previously been intended. And, it would ultimately be a meaningful change to a product line. So something doesn't have to be real and shipping in the next month for it to, I think, be worth talking about. But it does have to have the potential of being real in the, not insanely long future. And that's where, like I said, I'm willing to give allowances for that kind of a thing. But also, as far as I'm aware, nothing at MWC really triggered any of that for me. Admittedly, I also haven't been watching it as closely as you have, because frankly, MWC has, to me, it's now just CES. It's CES.
It's backup
version
CES.
2.
Yeah. It's
Well, I think it is
after
at least
party.
the better. It's the better version, in the sense of like.
I mean,
Well,
I'd rather go to Europe than Vegas, probably.
well, you know what? I haven't been to Europe, so I can't really speak to that.
That's why I want to go. I haven't been to Vegas. I've been to many places in the U.S. But
I honestly, I don't see you as a Vegas person, so there is that.
I'm really boring.
Okay, no, it's not that. Actually, it's for different reasons. I don't see you as a Vegas person. There are things I think you would actually really like there, genuinely. Particularly food related. I think you would actually be really happy in Vegas.
I like food. Big food guy.
Yeah, food.
I like eating.
Food is nice.
I'm pro food.
Yeah. I do not I'm not offended by food. Anyway, but
bold statements on the RambleCast. Some won't go that far. We're fearless.
yes.
We're the only ones who will be real with you and say that food sometimes pretty good.
Food gets my vote.
That's true. Yeah, I definitely vote for food.
Food for president. Anyway, but yeah, I just don't see you getting a whole lot out of going to Vegas as opposed to almost any other place. So, yeah, that's just kind of where I think you wouldn't. And yeah, it just wouldn't really be anything special for you. That being said, I imagine you would probably just like going to Europe if for no other reason than it's not the U.S. right now.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, as far as
although it is in Spain, so maybe the Catalonian independence war will break out while I'm there. You never know. You never know what's gonna happen.
These days, that is painfully true.
Maybe Russian blitzkrieg. You don't know.
So they're skipping Poland and going straight to Spain.
Yeah. They found the teleport hack that gets them across the map in one move.
they're just cheating at Risk. Yeah. Anyway. Wow. We're so far off the rails today. Yeah. So
speaking of food,
wait, really?
YouTube Premium Lite.
Okay. I wanted to get this last thought. What was the damn thought? No, I'm not sure I remember it. I was actually just gonna say at CES has the two problems. One, where a lot of what's there is literally just imaginary stuff. They don't even have engineering versions of something. They don't even have something where like the wires are sticking out of it. There's just a whole bunch of you can see pictures that somebody photoshopped and it's made up. The other problem with CES is the massive amount of things that literally nobody gives even the smallest F's about. For example, washers and dryers, or TVs in a year where nothing new happened with TVs, or oh god, there's such a list of so many things that come out at CES or are shown off at CES, and it's like literally nobody cares about this. Not even the people at your own company. Like, you could talk to someone at the booth and they're like, oh yeah, so oh, you came over, that's neat. We got this thing. Yeah, we actually announced it 8 months ago. But yeah, we're here with it today. It's a thing. And yeah, it like I've seen the just dead-eyed looks from people who have a booth for no reason.
Yeah,
Um
man. How it must be rough being the washer machine guy at the LG booth.
yeah, it's always LG.
That's got to be real sad.
No, what's sad, and this is real, when I went to CES, one of the events that we went and well, covered as a stretch because we didn't actually cover it, but we actually sat at an LG announcement where the stuff they showed off was a refrigerator, a washer, a dryer, and I think a dishwasher. I might be wrong on that one. We sat there for 45 minutes through an announcement of those four things. That's it. LG told us to go to that event. Told us at Android Police that we should go to that event.
I get tricked into learning about washing machines. I mean, if they want to send me a washer and dryer to review, I'd be down for that because my dryer is old and my washer is still broken. Because I don't really want to get it fixed because that's really expensive. So I just use the washing machine in my apartment.
Yeah,
building.
that makes sense. Okay, so yes, on to are we going straight to YouTube? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the next thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry.
So
I thought I had things in the other order.
Yeah.
Yes. So
as rumored for a long time, YouTube has finally made a version of YouTube Premium that does not have YouTube Music in it.
Yeah.
So YouTube Premium, which has gone up in price over the past couple of years, is now $14 a month. That has included ad-free YouTube videos, like no ads at all, except obviously like ads that are in the video.
Well, sponsored read stuff, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that stuff is still in there, and also includes YouTube Music, which has its own subscription. Is if you never use it, it's basically like Spotify podcast app, and also enables a couple features in the YouTube app, like the ability to download videos on your phone or tablet for offline viewing, or background play. So you can like close the YouTube app and it'll switch to being like a music player, basically. And also, I think something about picture-in-picture mode. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think it just allows picture-in-picture, though. Part of me thought that that started working without the subscription at some point.
Yeah, I don't have premium right now, and I still get picture-in-picture, so maybe that changed at some point. Anyway, so the new YouTube Premium Lite is $8 a month instead of $14, so that's a lot better. And it has most videos ad-free. So the main exception is like music videos and that kind of stuff, which is like, because of the kind of weird way YouTube is set up, those are functionally in like the YouTube Music library that are, uploaded and handled differently. Assuming that record labels have like very different deals for how that stuff is played, might be a factor.
Basically a licensing thing.
Yeah, it's less like this artist has a YouTube channel and you're watching it like any other YouTube channel, and it's more like on the back end, I imagine it's basically how like Spotify works, where it's just like a library that exists and it gets automatically pulled and is shown to you as a YouTube video, but really it's like, in some database somewhere that YouTube has to pay a lot of money for. So that kind of stinks, but like I guess that makes sense. I honestly wasn't sure if they were ever going to do this, because it seems the logistics for trying to figure out what is a price point that is both lower and still pays creators roughly how premium does. I'm assuming this pays for views, like basically how premium works now. Yeah, so it has no ads on most videos. It does not include YouTube Music. So I think for most people, like for me, that's been a thing with YouTube Premium is like I already have Spotify on a family plan. So like if I sign up for YouTube Premium, it's going to be like a thing that I'm paying a decent amount for that I'm just not going to use. And I didn't get an option for that until now. Now there's kind of an option. And it also doesn't enable downloads and background play, which is a little bit annoying, but whatever. Um, so yeah, I'm glad this exists. I don't think I'm gonna sign up for this just because I still don't watch a ton of YouTube. And I'm generally okay with like the ads on the videos I do watch. It's not that big of a deal to me. If I was watching a lot of YouTube, then yeah, probably. But it's fine. I'm glad it's there just because like it was really dumb that there was no option between potentially getting a lot of ads on those channels that really bump up the mid-roll ads, and there was nothing between that and like paying for a second Spotify. So I'm glad there's something in the middle there. I imagine this is going to be a big part in YouTube's ongoing conflict with ad blockers, where now there is an upselling option that is actually pretty reasonable, or a lot more reasonable than paying $14 a month for maybe a duplicate music service that you don't want.
Yeah.
Because like I've definitely like this has been I've gotten in so many fights with people over YouTube ads because I feel like some people turn into like absolute psychopaths about this, where they will tell, like I have read comments on Lemmy that are like, I will never watch or even like Reddit. A lot of Reddit people get mad over this, but like people who are like, I will never watch an ad. I have like a self-hosted YouTube DLP instance on my NAS that downloads every video I want to watch ahead of time and no ads, so I never see an ad, and I'm watching all my YouTube through like VLC media player. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Please, like, anyway. So I'm glad there's an option now. I think this is an easier sell. There's going to be a lot of ad block people that are just like, going to scream and yell about that for all eternity. There's not a lot you can do. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to go there. But there's a lot of people who are just like, you're not going to be able to reason with, and they're going to ride or die on ad block. And that's the way it is. But I think there is a lot of people you can probably convince to upgrade. It's like, because my thing is like, when I'm watching a YouTube video and I get like a 15-second, or if I'm on my TV, sometimes it's like 30 seconds or something. If I'm getting like kind of a long pre-roll ad for like a stupid Ford truck I'm not going to buy, and I'm only wasting 15 seconds of my life, and whoever made the video that I care about gets like 3 cents, that seems like a good deal to me. I'm good with that. So how premium works is that it pays people kind of roughly what they would get from you if you were watching the ads. The math on that is kind of complicated, but it's something. I've seen some YouTubers say it actually pays better than ads, like you get more of a cut per viewer than with premium. I don't know if that holds true for premium light, but I know they still have to be paying the channel something. So it's better than ad block in that respect for me.
Yeah. So, okay, I have heard different explanations of how premium pays out, that are, just to put it simply, incompatible with each other. So I'm a little uncertain what to believe. That being said, there's definitely the angle where most YouTubers actually do make more off of premium viewers than they do off of ad viewers, which again, based on some of the things that I've heard about how premium pays out, I'm not sure that that's necessarily always true, but I assume
Yeah.
in the vast majority of cases it probably is true. And I'm assuming under Premium Light, similar story, but maybe it's not going to pay out as well uh, to those YouTube channels,
Right.
assuming that the people who tick down to Premium Light are not also watching a fair number of music videos or streaming music. Um,
Yeah, because like fundamentally how this works is your $8 a month gets divided amongst the videos you watch, but
well, and
there's
YouTube itself.
probably right there's gonna like YouTube is taking like its profit cut somewhere. There's got to be like some kind of fuzzy math that you need like several degrees for like the people who are subscribed to this and not watching videos are probably are subsidizing like the people who are watching a lot of videos with this to some extent. So I'm sure the math is like very complicated, but that's something like that is how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, and there's definitely an angle of this where, like, it sounds like if a person paying for premium watches just a single YouTube video in a month, you would think that that single YouTube video is going to get a hell of a lot of that premium, and it does not. So yeah, those people are definitely subsidizing other people's watching habits if they're not themselves hitting like a certain inflection point. And yeah, so you know it's weird how they're justifying it, and how the math clearly isn't working the way that anyone says it is.
Mhm.
But that being said, yeah, I'm not trying to overthink it. I'm just generally happy with the fact that I don't see ads on YouTube, because I'm look, I'm not one of those people who like loses my mind with ads. If I see some ads, I can deal with it.
Right.
But I can't stand it when a video has, you know, if a 15-minute video has like 4 mid rolls.
Yeah, some of them, some people crank up that mid-roll to like the highest YouTube will let,
Yeah. Yeah, and
which
it's
is like you get your bag, but my goodness, this is annoying.
yeah. And unquestionably it's just too much. I'm not going to name any particular channels, but I'll just say this. If you watch any channel, any YouTube channel that belongs to someone who streams on Twitch and is reasonably successful on Twitch, look, they guaranteed have their Twitch Twitch ads turned way up. And once they've done that on Twitch for a little while, they just realize, oh, my audience will just take anything. They'll either pay out to get rid of the ads, or they're willing to just sit through ungodly numbers of ads. And so they'll turn up their ad rate on YouTube also. I literally have a video open now with somebody who I am a YouTube premium subscriber, so I don't know that he does this, but also I know he does this. Like, it's common sense. I've watched a couple of his Twitch streams, and let's just say I don't watch his Twitch streams because I'm not going to pay to subscribe to his channel. And oh my god, the amount of ads that show up on his channel, it's completely intolerable. So I only watch him on YouTube. And in general, even YouTube channels that don't go with crazy numbers of mid-rolls or anything like that, I don't want them. I do not want the ads in YouTube. And I do watch, sometimes I'll watch, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 videos in a whole week. Usually just kind of like daily news or something. If it's if it's the right week or the right month, I'm gonna watch 100 videos or maybe more. I don't know. It can be a lot in some week or some weeks or some months. Especially if I'm on like a research path where I'm trying to learn how something works or what what people have to say on a thing, or right now I have a window of tabs open to some color grading videos using DaVinci Resolve. And oh my god, if all of these had ads in them, I dread to think of just like the extra, I'm guessing hour and a half these videos would account for just in ads. Like, I don't have time for it. I literally don't have time for that. It's the tacky old meme. It just, no one got time for that. So anyway, which I know I just butchered, but whatever. Yeah, so I'm all in for having a YouTube premium subscription. I am a little bit in the position though where I'm not yet sure if I just want to go to premium light, because first off, let's see, the background play, I never use it. Literally never. I have used it just to try it out.
I didn't use it a ton when I had premium. It's very dependent on what you're watching.
Right.
I think because there's a lot of like podcast type videos where
exactly,
maybe you watch it for 20 minutes and then you turn off your phone, you go do chores, and it's still going. Useful for that.
Yeah, and I get that idea. I fully get that concept. I just don't do that. Like,
yeah, I don't do that either. Like I can't really watch most like Twitch streams, and I can't watch most like video podcasts type thing like this. I can't do this usually.
yeah.
Everything like this is like an audio podcast, and while it's going, I'm like cleaning dishes or something, or driving.
Yeah, and I get that. And I don't.
So that's me saying, like, I don't understand why you people watch this. I don't know why.
Well, the thing is, I just usually don't mind if the video is also playing, and I get that that's not good for battery life on a mobile device, but you know, if somebody just wants, or if I'm listening to a podcast, I'm not even going to try to describe other people here. If I'm listening to a podcast, or if the podcast is in video form and I'm quote unquote watching it, I just don't care if the video is also playing. That's fine. It can just play. That's cool. As long as, you know, as long as I've got the podcast like functionality to pause it, do what I need to, or change my focus for a little bit and then come back and watch some more and whatever. I'm all in for that. That's great. So yeah, basically background play, I get why people want it. I don't think that the logic is bad. I just don't use it myself. Also, and I've said this for years, I said this ever since they announced that this was a thing. Shame on you, YouTube, for making background play a feature you have to pay for. That never should have happened. That's a feature that should just exist in the app. There is, I've heard people try to justify this with some sort of like, oh, you know, then, you know, like ads aren't going to be worth as much or this or that. And it's like, no, your logic is bad. If somebody activates background play, YouTube should just play an audio ad, and maybe more audio ads than they would have played in video ads, whatever. That's fine. You can do this stuff and you can make the money that you need to make through ads. You just don't have to do it through video. Like, it's such a broken concept to me that anyone makes that argument. Okay, so anyway, as far as downloads go, like downloading a video for offline playback, that's a feature I don't use very often, but occasionally I use it. Would I miss it if it was gone? a little, but not really, especially because I know how to download YouTube videos.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
If I'm getting on an airplane, like I can use YouTube DL on a couple,
yeah,
long videos or whatever, and put those on my phone.
yeah. It's a very non-challenging kind of thing. So, it's yeah, I can work around that one if that's the issue. So when it comes to the features, I really don't need full premium. I could go to premium light. When it comes to regular YouTube videos, I obviously premium light covers those. So cheers, I could absolutely watch those, and I'd be happy to. It's the music part where I hit the stumbling block. I don't listen to a ton of music lately. I do still pop it on in the car from time to time, and sometimes when I'm working, I turn on music. So I do listen to enough that I wouldn't want to go without some sort of a music service. Could I go to Spotify? Absolutely. Do I want to? No, in part because screw Spotify. I feel like the company has gone full evil route in many ways, particularly supporting Nazis.
If I didn't have, well, YouTube does plenty of that too. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but Spotify made an effort to to sign contracts with them.
Right. YouTube is not signing exclusivity deals with Jordan Peterson. And,
yeah, they're not trying to
Steven
actively
Crowder.
invite those people to the platform. They're just not telling them to pound sand once they discover they're there. To me, there's a difference. And I think Spotify's in the wrong place. Plus, I resent what Spotify has tried to and partially succeeded in doing with podcast, like basically controlling and owning the podcast market. Screw Spotify for that stuff, because that is just shameful and dishonest and despicable. So yeah,
yes, but listen to Tag Tales on Spotify.
yeah. So I'm not going to go to Spotify, and most of the other music services are meh, whatever. Also, I'm just going to say this, but look, I haven't used Spotify's app, but I'm of the opinion that based on everything everyone else has said about it, that app garbage, dog, and I don't want anything to do with it. So
it's fine. I don't know if I've really had issues with it. I know they occasionally try to pull some nonsense on like the homepage of like, I think recently they have like things that are like shorts on there, but I can ignore those because I'm a big boy. So the mobile apps have been fine. The desktop apps are like web wrappers, so it's a little whatever.
I mean, at this point, I sort of expect that in a lot of cases, but still, everyone I know, maybe it's not all the time, but it's often enough. Everyone I know who uses it with enough frequency ends up saying, "Oh, I hate this about the app. I hate that about the app," and it's always something that leaves you going, "How did this get released?" If the thing that this person is saying is true, which I don't see why most people would lie about it, it doesn't make sense that a developer released the app get with a particular set of bugs or weird issues or just terrible decisions, and making effectively a bad app for the sake of making a bad app. Yeah, I just don't want that in my life. Look, the YouTube Music app is not wonderful. It has its problems, but they're mostly the same problems any Google app has, and I can live with those things. I would have more trouble living with like the Spotify stupidity that I've heard about. So, yeah, I'm pretty much I feel like Spotify has made the decisions for me. They support Nazis and they make bad apps. I'm just gonna stick with YouTube. I'll just pay for premium. It's okay.
Yeah, I have my Spotify family sub. If I didn't have that, I would probably be on YouTube Premium for the ad free and using YouTube Music for when I need to. My music is like half and half. My own library of music I've bought and downloaded. And like other half is kind of the more mainstream stuff that Spotify has. So I can replace the like one half of mainstream stuff pretty easily. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So
Really quick, what do you feel? Do you feel anything weird about the name Premium Light? So
probably no more than like every other option here, like YouTube Plus. Well, I guess it would be the alternative or something like that, but it's like that's all these are kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it's not YouTube Red again.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know. There's something just weird to me about calling something Premium Light. It's sort of like,
it sounds like a beer. This is a beer.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, I kind of made fun of it with the episode title. Now an ultra barely premium. And or I was the other title I was thinking about going with was RambleCast in Ultra SD. Like it feels just a little bit like a weird thing to call it, where like you almost can't call something premium if you're going to make it a light version. At that point, aren't you just talking about thing regular? But yeah, I don't know. Because there's not really anything else they can call it. It almost feels like they really should have just renamed premium to something else and then made the premium light should have just been called premium. I don't know. I don't have a great answer to this, but there's something about the combination of premium light that just seems wrong.
And also one last thing before we jump topics. Some of the Verge comments are also mentioning that YouTube Premium and Premium Light are more expensive if you try to sign up through like iOS apps.
Yeah.
So they're not, you know, they're not letting Apple take a cut. They're just bumping up the price to match. So if you want the actual prices on this, you got to sign up from a browser. And actually, do that for as many things as you can.
Yeah, don't give Apple money for stuff that honestly they probably should not be ripping off money for.
Because everything you do that with, either Apple is like getting free money from it, or the whatever service you're buying is taking a cut from your subscription to make up for what Apple's taking. I don't know if that makes sense. They're getting less money from you for the service you're paying them for.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is fine. You know, like I'm paying for my, you know, Ivory Mastodon app subscription through Apple because that's like the option they provide. But I wouldn't do that for like this.
Yeah. So look, I'll fully grant.
Also, when you do it through the website, it's usually less of a hassle to do account sharing. So
yeah. So I will fully grant. This obviously wasn't a topic, but just to say this, because it fits so well in this context, I don't really mind the idea that Apple is going to take a cut off of subscriptions like this. That's okay. However, Apple needs, at least if the subscription is actually legitimately purchased through an iOS app, because if Apple's handling the processing and transaction fees, then yeah, they should also be taking a cut for themselves. But the cuts are egregiously expensive. It's way too much of a cut. And in retaliation, yes, I'm going to call it retaliation. I really wish that all the companies that let Apple do things for free on their services would instead start charging Apple money for doing anything on those services. So, for example, Apple's YouTube account where they upload all their ads, I think YouTube should charge them. I mean, you would charge anybody else if you're broadcasting their ads for free. Yeah, I think YouTube should just start charging them for just simply having those ads there. I think Google should start charging Apple for appearing in search results. You know, obviously, when I say I think that this should happen, I'm being facetious. I actually don't think it should happen. Right. But I think it would convey a pretty strong message to Apple that, yeah, you're not actually special. You probably should not pretend that everybody owes you money just because your platform exists. Because you should be, if that's the logic, you should be paying out to everyone else too.
Writing my article about what if tech companies also did retaliatory tariffs.
Effectively, yes. Okay, so, but speaking of things to take retaliation for, Skype is to be dead.
Yeah, Skype is shutting down. They're turning off Skype in May. They're adding some features to migrate people to the free version of Microsoft Teams, which is frightening. I don't want to ever look at that.
I have literally never heard anyone say anything positive about Teams.
I've only ever used Teams for video conferencing, like when I have to join a meeting for some like company's announcement or something, and it never works well. It like does weird things with the chat and user icons or something. So I don't like it, but that's their designated option, or you can just export your Skype data and have it as like a big file or something. I will say this will probably go down in history as one of the biggest blunders of all time. Like, Skype had absolute domination over, I mean, they like basically made like voice over IP and teleconferencing mainstream. Like, it was like they were the verb. They're like, you want to Skype later? Like, that's what video calling meant. Now it's FaceTiming. People use that as a verb. Or Zoom, whatever.
I will argue that I feel like one, Skype had become like the old person's thing while FaceTime was not. FaceTime
Right.
had become trendy.
But Skype it definitely never had like good market penetration in like anything except desktops. They definitely tried. Like, there was always the Skype mobile apps that were honestly pretty good for some of the time. For a while, they were very bloated and they messed that up, and that was part of the blunder. But
yeah,
they're sometimes fine. And they also tried bringing it to like TVs and stuff, and no one wanted to use that.
And the second thing is, I think Skype's market share was sort of automatically eroded thanks to Discord, because, you know, it's not necessarily that people are doing a whole lot of video chatting over Discord, but they sure as hell were doing a lot of audio over Discord for gaming. And Skype was never a very good solution for that, because one, when Discord first started doing this, Discord was good for groups where Skype kind of wasn't. Like, Skype really was only good for one-on-one.
Discord copied this like TeamSpeak thing where it's just like a place and people can come and go as they want, and it took Skype a very long time to duplicate that.
And the second thing is, Skype, at least well, depending on what you installed and what you did, Skype was always unreasonably system heavy. Like, it was a very fat, bloated piece of software where, look, I'm not saying Discord is perfect by any means, but I would argue it is considerably less bloaty than Skype.
Yeah, Skype definitely had phases of being bad and worse because it was a native app for a very long time, and then they transitioned it to like I don't know if it was exactly Electron, but it was like web wrapper type thing, and it's stayed there ever since. Um, and they went back and forth on adding more bloat to it. Like I remember they famously tried like stories a couple years ago, try to get people to use Skype for like vaguely social media stories. And I think like a year or two ago, they started putting like news articles in it because that's just what you do with all apps now. It needs to have like a feed of articles that you get a little bit of a commission off when someone clicks them or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do with like Edge and the Windows Start menu or the widget panel. So that's just kind of their default thinking. So there's a lot of things that contributed to this, but it was they fumbled the ball to just an incredible degree here.
Yeah.
Especially when COVID was starting, they let Zoom suck all the air out of the room, and even Google had this issue. They didn't know what to do. They put Google. I think back then it was Hangouts or Hangouts chat, whatever. They put Hangouts chat in the Gmail app, so like everyone would just have it. So that's the delivery method they had, and it was everyone messed this up somehow. It's incredible.
I will agree. Everyone messed it up. I'm going to partially, in a very limited way, I'm going to defend Google for, well, the thing I'm going to defend Google over might not really be a defense because it's also kind of calling them out for something else. But Google's problem at that time was really that they were in between chat apps. Like they had one that they were in the process of killing. They had another that they wanted to send people to, but didn't really have it right yet. They also had another thing that was kind of a nascent product that wasn't really going to work out. And just to be clear, we're talking about, so one of these was Hangouts, one of these was Duo, and one of these was Hangouts Meet.
No. Yeah.
So the Hangouts thing was obviously, it was the thing that everybody was using, but they wanted to transition everyone off of that. It was effectively going to die. And I might have my timeline a little bit off, but I know that all these things did exist, and this was roughly their process. And Duo was successful, but Duo was at the time one-on-one, and it was strictly one-on-one.
Yeah. And then they tried like kind of making it for group stuff, and it didn't work. Like
it even worked fine for that. It's just by the time they did, they'd already lost the timing, and they were caught flat-footed on what would have, I think, if COVID had happened like 2 years later, I think Google probably actually would have done very well. Wow, I just triggered 2 devices with that.
Well, I've got good news, Cody. There's COVID might happen again 2 years after that.
Yeah, it sure might. At least on the plus side, this time I think Zoom is hopefully going to be dead, or at least obscured into irrelevance by then, because oh my god, does everyone hate it.
Yeah, much like lockdowns, the next time a pandemic happens, everyone's going to be very averse to Zoom and not willing to try it again.
Yeah, the only time I still see Zoom, it's certain companies have PR people who I think have to use it because it was like something.
Zoom has a like G Suite type thing now. Like they have like
Yeah.
I think some chat app and like a notes that they have some equivalent to like Microsoft 365 and Google Suite. I don't know the full extent of it. I don't know if they do like email or anything, but
Yeah, but there are definitely people in the PR space. They have to use it because it's what their company pays for, and they are not happy about it. I literally like so many of them make comments just unprompted, like, "Yep, so I guess we're still using this," or something to the effect of like, well, we have to use this, so just like do this and do that so you can work around this problem or that problem. Or literally one of them sent me an email, again totally unprompted, saying, I'm sorry we have to use Zoom, but here's the details on how to connect. And then pasted in like the connection details, and it's like, oh my god. You guys just hate this thing. It's basically the same way everyone talks about Microsoft Teams, which is of course the mistake that they're making now, which is sending everyone to a thing everybody hates.
this is another thing. Like I think if I had like a week to myself, I could write like a book about this. Just like both Google and Microsoft, but Google's much worse. Google and Microsoft have both like just not understood what to do. They keep like splitting priorities between things that businesses want and then what people want and then what they think people want but actually don't. Like I remember before COVID, like it wasn't really a thing to like send someone a link to a video call. Like it was like one-on-one most of the time, outside of like business things like, oh, a company's gonna have an announcement, I need to be in this meeting about it. But then like I think COVID, with everyone using Zoom or things copying Zoom, because Skype added this, I think a couple months into it, they added a thing where you could make a link to a call. That definitely like normalized everyone to like, oh, I can just send a link and like you show up when you show up and then leave, and it's just that link's always gonna work and stay there. So that's like a thing that was how business software was kind of working, but not consumer. But that everyone got tripped up on like where that divide should be, and of course Google went back and forth on like, is Hangouts for normal people or businesses, or should we have Duo? Should we, and then there was a whole Allo thing that was supposed to be connected to Duo, and then they got tossed out because no one wanted it. They can't get this right. Meanwhile, Apple has been writing on iMessage,
like FaceTime.
Yeah, and just like they got this right the first time, and they've improved it just enough over the years to keep people using it.
I'm gonna partially disagree with this. Apple absolutely did not get FaceTime right, at least not in the beginning, and I think even today, I'm still gonna hold on to the argument. I still don't think FaceTime's that good today. It's just that they made it as good as they felt like it needed to be, and everyone which by the way, they basically stopped changing FaceTime. Nothing new is happening in FaceTime. It's pretty obvious because you can watch all of the WWDC announcements. You can watch all the iPhone announcements. The only times they talk about FaceTime, it actually has nothing to do with FaceTime itself. It has to do with features that they add that can be used by FaceTime. Like Center Stage, I think, is one of them.
Right, Center Stage, the filters,
yeah. It's always stuff that's like OS level, but FaceTime is the place where you're gonna likely see it.
And I've had maybe 3 FaceTime calls because ultimately it is a video conferencing service where every participant has to have an Apple device.
Yep.
So I just end up not using it that much.
And that's why I think no one's that critical of FaceTime, because it effectively can't be used in business, outside of very rare cases Um, it only really gets used between family members, and when there's a divide of like this person's on Android, the other person's on an iPhone, then then the iPhone person doesn't complain that, oh, FaceTime sucks because it can't be used by other people. Instead, they're complaining that other people don't have iPhones. So the blame is not going where it belongs. The blame is going to other people, because that is also just how a lot of people seem to think. So I think FaceTime is given way too many passes. It is objectively no different than any other streaming service. So yeah, I don't think that it's
Yeah, I
the
can buy
special
that.
one.
Especially when the difficult part with all these other services that they're cross-platform, and that's where I'm sad about Skype, because my controversial take is that late stage Skype was pretty good. By the end, like, they got most of the bloat out of all the apps. I've been using it for every Tech Tales episode, because they do cloud backup recordings for me, and I think they have more lenient like maximum call times than like Teams and Zoom and stuff, because most of those max out at, I think, like an hour. I don't know how personal Teams is at this point, but Skype's been pretty good. And Skype is what I was forcing my family to use for messaging after we had to stop using Hangouts because Hangouts was dead. But then at a certain point, we just all had iPhones. So I haven't actually used Skype for messaging in a couple years, like 2 years, maybe 3 years. But I mean, like, for the last couple of years, it was like a good enough messaging and calling thing that worked on everything. And that's something that there really aren't a lot of other examples of, especially in terms of things that are like accessible. Like, I think Skype was more accessible and understandable than Discord ever will be, just because it's completely different system of having like a divide between servers and channels and that kind of stuff instead of individuals. So I'm sad Skype is gone. I'm sad there's like not really a good replacement for it except Discord, which is very different, and all the various like business type chats that are also different. I guess there is like everyone else in the world is using WhatsApp for basically what this was. So
Yeah.
just I'm bummed. I might need to come up with an excuse to have like one last like group Skype call. I think that'd be fun. Get one last Skype group chat going for the meme and write an article about it.
Actually, if you're gonna do anything, you said it was gonna be in May, right? That the shutdown happens.
Yeah.
So here's a thought: organize a Tech Tales about Skype, and do the recording on don't make it the last day, because that just seems risky. But
they don't have a confirmed date yet, so this could be May 1st or May 30th. I don't know what the last.
Get organized and be ready for doing it a few days before Skype's shut down, and that way you can it's a little bit for the meme, it's a little bit for the content, and it's entirely like a legitimate, here's the history of Skype, and do a recording on Skype, do all the Skype things. I think that actually would make a lot of sense. It's actually on brand, it's logical, and you can use the thing right before it dies, which is a thing you don't usually get to do with Tech Tales.
Yeah, maybe. There will definitely be a Skype episode at some point. I don't know if it'll happen before or after. again, it's dependent on my ability to regenerate spoons, which has not been going well the past couple months. There hasn't been a lot of Tech Tales episodes in the last year for like 50 different reasons, but
Yeah, mostly because you don't ask me anymore.
well, yeah, I mean, I've done 5 in the last year, maybe. There's just not a lot.
Well, yeah, that plus you've run out of
of
operating systems to talk about.
yeah, no, I haven't. That's the thing. But I did get to the point where there's like a couple things I want to do, but like the thought of trying to talk about them at the depth I'd want to is frightening. Like
Yeah, I get that.
Like I want to eventually do Windows Phone, but I don't know how to do that yet. I know part of it is like I don't, because I also don't want to do 10-part series anymore, because that's like really difficult for me to sparse out, and I think like anyone going to the podcast is like, oh, let me just see, oh, part 7, that's too many episodes, I don't want to do that. So I don't think the parts work well for anyone, but at the same time I don't want to do like a 10-hour episode on what I do. Kind of want to do a 10-hour episode on Windows Phone, but I don't want to do the research for a 10-hour episode on Windows
So
Phone.
what you're saying is you're willing to do a 10-hour episode on Tron, but you're not going to do it for the most used operating systems in the world. Okay, I get it.
I can do it for Tron because that's not research. I'm just watching Tron again. And then talking, shooting the shit about it for hours. It's fun. But the other ones need work. So I don't know how to do that yet. I'm thinking like at a minimum, I'll have to do like MCU leading up to it with different related episodes. Like I got to get the Microsoft Kin episode out of the way first. That kind of like piecing I can do out before then.
Yeah, and I was actually going to suggest something to that effect. Instead of doing it as quote unquote part 1, part 2, part 3, do it as just the topic that is covered in that part, and that's just the title or something like that. Yeah. And the only thing is
to do this, I just haven't put together the plan.
It might be harder for somebody to look at and realize, oh, here's the order I should listen to them. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit iffy, but it's basically the same idea, just titling it in a way that's a little bit more obvious about what you're gonna say or talk about. So yeah, I personally will not be missing Skype. I don't care about it. I have, outside of the calls with you for recording Tech Tales episodes, I have not used Skype in let's see, it's 2025. I don't know that I've really used it since, was it around in 2010?
Yeah, because I think
I probably used it in 2010 once.
Okay.
Maybe twice.
I think it was, before I look it up, I'm gonna say it was invented in like 2006.
See, I was actually about to ask, was it around in 2005? And then it's like, no, I think even I know it wasn't around then, but
2003. Okay.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I would say my total number of Skype calls in my entire life is Tech Tales episodes plus 3 or plus 4.
Hold on.
Like,
wait, Skype was owned by eBay? What?
I knew Skype was owned by someone before Microsoft. I don't think I knew it was eBay.
Yeah, it was released in August 2003. In September 2005, eBay acquired it for $2.6 billion. That's a lot in 2005.
No kidding.
And then in 2009, 65% of it was sold from eBay to some investment groups, and then Microsoft bought all of it. in 2011 to replace Live Messenger. Also, one of those groups that bought part of it from eBay was the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board.
That actually makes sense.
That's great. It turned out to be a good investment.
Yeah,
That's
that's
good
why
job.
it makes
Good
sense.
job, Canada.
Go figure.
Um, Another W for Canada. They're racking it up lately.
Lately, only
lately,
2
yeah.
decades ago.
There have only been 2 things that have happened since 2006. So so Skype, rest in peace. I'll find an excuse to use it one last time and make some kind of content out of it. And then I guess next thing is Utah becomes the first state to pass an App Store age verification bill. So
yeah, so I this is the quickest of mentions. I really don't think we're gonna talk much about this, but yeah, all the things that have basically been going on with states passing laws saying like porn sites have to verify age and anything to that effect. Yeah, now Utah is basically saying the app stores have to do this too. And so they're basically going to demand that anybody who is using their app stores has to prove that they're of a certain age in order to access apps, or we'll just say products that have any sort of a age requirement on them. And I find this to basically be one, comical for all of the reasons that we've certainly talked about in the past. There are going to be people who bypass this with VPNs, which is admittedly much more difficult in this scenario, because if you get an iPhone,
I don't know if that would work.
Exactly.
Because like we know Apple has already engineered like crazy methods to keep anyone from outside the borders of the EU to download apps from outside the store.
Yeah, so in order to get the VPN app on your phone, in order to use a VPN, you would have to go through probably some amount of age verification. Now, as far as I know, this law does not specify that they have to perform the age verification when a user first comes to the App Store, but rather, I think it might be based on when they try to access something that would have an age limitation on it. It's not clear to me, because, like, what about the first time somebody gets their phone given to them? Are they going to have to like do age verification when they're setting up their first phone in that ecosystem? That sounds like a really messy experience, and probably something that is also a little too easy to fiddle with and cheat. So I'm seeing a lot of problems with this type of legislation, and how it would be implemented. All that being said, and I think it's also worth pointing out there is one very easy way to cheat on this. Sure, your VPN from your, like, putting a VPN app on your phone might not really work out, but you know where you can put a VPN? On your router. And if you just connect via Wi-Fi first, your router can just claim that you're in Lithuania and problems seem solved.
Yeah, I mean, this is weird because it's specifically for all apps for minors. So like if I'm 12 years old, I presumably can't even download like Google, Gmail to check, my school email or whatever. It's like it's kind of dumb. I mean, like the app stores already mandate age ratings for apps, which a lot of times is also dumb because then it puts like every web browser as like adult, because like you can theoretically go to an adult website, but Safari does not have an adult rating. It's just on the phone. So
Well, self-preferential treatment is always going to be a thing with Apple anyway. But yeah. So I certainly agree. There's some problematic elements to this whole thing that Apple surely is. Or well, we keep saying Apple, but this applies to Google Play. It's going to apply to Apple. It would have applied to Amazon if they were going to be around by the time this kicks in. Which actually, you know what? Did they give a date? Okay, I don't think this article gives a date on when this is supposed to kick in. So, you'll have to forgive that.
I'm assuming it's like January of next year. That's usually how these work.
Probably, though.
It says
well,
I clicked the act, and the first line says effective May 7th, 2025.
Good luck. Literally, like that's not possible.
I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but
that's the detail that's necessary. That is a very unrealistic expectation to have a turnaround in 2 months. I mean, it's not impossible, certainly, but you want it tested. Do you want it to go through proper channels? No company that size operating something that big is going to have it done in 2 months. At least not without some problems and probably some legal hurdles that they'll have to jump through at some point or another. Anyway, regardless, this doesn't seem like a thought out sort of thing.
Well, my impression from this, again, I've not read this thing or enough about it, but it seems like the besides the thing to just like not let children download apps, which seems pointless to me, the other component of this is that it puts the challenge of verifying someone's age on the App Store, and then that data gets passed on to the app. So like, Snap is happy about this because it's like, oh great, we don't have to deal with this anymore. We just let Apple tell us how old the person is, and then we don't have to handle this infrastructure or legal issues at all. Which, like, I guess that's justifiable, but I don't know. Because again, like, App Store ratings are so wonky, and yeah, I don't know.
So
it's just very dumb, and it also very difficult to talk about this without getting into like all of the ways where these systems are abused.
Yes.
Especially in efforts to keep anyone who's not an adult from accessing like anything related to LGBT topics or like a lot of mental health resources and things. Like I'm not really confident in Utah's ability to be a moral compass here. Really any state, but also I think Utah was one of the ones that passed one of the like trans kids in sports bill when there was like one kid in Utah who was trans and in sports. I think that's what happened. So
pretty much.
Yeah, so I don't know about any of this.
And also, we've already seen that pretty much everybody is in agreement that this is a First Amendment violation in many instances. It's also a violation of privacy in all cases. And it's in at least a few instances, these laws have also demonstrated that they're being used for illegal purposes, including basically like trying to identify people based on what they're accessing. So in other words, if they're accessing a particular thing, they now have to give actual verifiable information of who they are, which can be used against them, which, yeah, that's also wildly inappropriate. So we now have enough proof that these are pretty much ridiculous laws that should not exist anywhere, and now trying to attach this to a person's ability to even download apps is You know, I hate using the term slippery slope, but look, that hill was rained on and then got cold enough to ice over. Like, it's a downhill skating rink at this point. And Utah is just heading the way, very ambitiously, might I add. So, yeah, this is a terrible idea. It's gonna have it's gonna have some legal hurdles, and I'm gonna say one thing which I feel bad about saying, but I think it bears saying it. If Utah wanted to implement something like this, the thing that they really need to do is take ownership of this themselves and make it easier for age verification to happen with the state having done the work of age verification. Basically, somebody should be, you know, if someone needs to verify their age, it should not be on the app stores to prove someone's age. It should be on the state to make it easy for the app store to get that information and just assume that it's correct.
Yeah, because this was this has been like Pornhub's argument with the adult website bans in all the states that are trying that. It's like, okay, well, to verify someone's age, we have to use a third-party company that verifies IDs, and it's like, we don't know what they're doing with that data. And if they're wrong, then like they can get sued, Pornhub can get sued. So it's just easier to be like, now we're just turning off access in the state. It's not gonna happen. So yeah, see what happens there. Now it's Mac time or Apple time, because there's more than just Macs.
Yes, and fortunately for anyone who has any feelings about this, this is not going to take long.
No, these are pretty minor. So what was I already forgot, what was the thing that happened before these announcements?
Well, there was the there was the iPad.
The iPad. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking of the iPad. All right, when we get to the iPad,
let's just skip to the iPad now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So Apple announced a updated iPad Air. I don't know what generation we're on, but these are the iPad Airs with M3 chips. And they start at the same $599 price for the Wi-Fi model, or $749 for Wi-Fi plus cellular. And it's the usual, performance improvements, battery efficiency, all that fun stuff. Apple also talked about an updated Magic Keyboard for the iPad Air that has a new function row and a USB-C connector for charging, which is $269 for the 11-inch model and $319 for the 13-inch model, which is insane. I'm not like, you really have to be one of those people that cannot work on a MacBook for that to make sense, where you're paying $500 plus tax for the iPad and then minimum of $270 plus tax for the keyboard. You are now at MacBook Air pricing. Except you have a thing that is bulkier and far less useful than a MacBook Air. So you really have to be in the like, I'm doing all my work on an iPad territory for that, or just want a second worst laptop, which I fully understand as someone who has lived that life.
And look, I understand that there are people out there that want to have the slightly nicer experience that this gets you, but when you consider that you can go buy any Bluetooth keyboard, they all will work with this thing. Like, it's actually hard to find Bluetooth keyboards that cost that much. So you can go get a much better keyboard, or well, maybe not much better,
you
but
can use
you can go get another keyboard and do really well. You can go buy a good mechanical keyboard that's Bluetooth for less than this. If
I
mechanical
mean,
is your lean.
yeah, I mean, you can use any keyboard or mouse you want now. I mean, obviously, the selling point for the keyboard here is that it's flush with the iPad and like
Right.
also acts as a stand, but like there's also other form-fitting keyboards. Like I have some Logitech one on my iPad Air. It's like almost as nice, and I paid like $100 for it. And it's also like an actual case. This is not a case that's protecting your iPad in any way. So yeah, so this is the new iPad Air, and like I think this might be it, it's definitely one of the most iterative updates I've ever seen from Apple. Maybe the most iterative, but that is like the lowest bar. There's a lot of these where Apple will just swap out the chip and call it a day. It's a little bit more silly here because the iPad still has the problem where the hardware is vastly outpacing the software. Like,
Yeah.
there is no reason a normal person buying an iPad needs an M3 in there. It's not doing anything for them. Everyone uses these for web browsing and streaming. Maybe they're doing some photo editing. Like a couple people are using Final Cut on these, but not a lot.
I would
There's
I would
some
expect
gaming,
more than you
sure,
think.
sure. But like so much of this hardware is unutilized that it's kind of crazy at this point. Like iPad OS is still so locked down, and like it's very silly. Like I can sort of understand the logic of like this is a pared down computer that is easier to use and less difficult to mess up in a way that a Mac is not, or a Windows PC is not, or whatever. But that doesn't preclude you from adding functionality still. Like there's still a lot of stuff from Mac OS that is not on the iPad that should be. Like I think last year is when they finally added the ability to like format a flash drive you plug in. Like just a
Yeah.
lot of basic like computer stuff that's still missing. Um, the one thing that gets me is like they still have not enabled like any, they still don't really let emulators on the App Store, and they also have not enabled virtualization at all. So Google with Chromebooks, this was how Google had Chromebooks for a while. It's just like, here's your dumb computer that has Chrome and you can't break it even if you tried. And it's lightweight and like you just don't have to worry about the computer stuff. But then they were like, all right, we're going to add Android apps to this, and we're going to add Linux apps, and that's a full feature thing, but like they're in their own little container thing that has limited interactivity with the rest, so it can't break Chrome OS. So I don't know why Apple can't just be like, all right, we'll allow Parallels on the App Store or VMware or whatever, and like everything you need to do, just it's in your little Windows VM now. Like that's something they could do anytime they wanted, and they're still not doing it. And that would bypass like all of their safety issues. Their things was like, oh, we don't want you messing with the OS or whatever. It's like it's in the container now. What are you yelling at me about? So there's just like I don't get it. It's pretty absurd at this point, and I don't need them to. Again, this is also the same exact design for the iPad Air, which I don't need them to redesign the iPad every year. Like it's fine, but like all the issues that already existed are still here. Like you can't like put the headphone jack back, put it back. I'm sorry, I want that. Or toss in another USB-C port, like Microsoft does is on the Surface. They have like 2 or 3 USB ports. Or I don't do something like it's like it's nice this exists just because like whoever is going to go buy an iPad now has like a marginally more future-proof iPad, and it's the same price, but it's like really driving the home that all they know how to do with this form factor now is like bring in the Mac chips after a while and call it a day.
Okay, so I'm going to agree and disagree with a few of the things you said. First off, hard disagree. like you said that it's the same form factor, and you kind of implied that they should change it. Nope, hard disagree. Cases that worked on the old one will work on the new one, I believe. Don't quote me on that because I haven't actually checked, but I'm pretty sure these are the same dimensions. The same cases should work. Therefore, if you put a case on your iPad, and okay, that's not everybody, but if you do put a case on your iPad, cheers, good. That's one thing that absolutely should stay the same. Until there is a good reason to change the case, that don't change the case. In fact, if they were
right, that's what I'm saying, is that there should be a reason to make it more useful to justify it. You know,
well, okay.
Obviously, don't do the iPhone thing where it's like it's just basically the same thing, but we made it like a millimeter different. So fuck you if you already bought a case.
Yeah, because that is horrible, and companies should actually be punished for doing that. Okay, so, I'll take that as my opportunity to approach the internals. I get what you're saying, and I think what you're saying makes total sense with a but in it. If let's just say hypothetically the software doesn't get better or wouldn't make use of the hardware, or wouldn't exceed what the hardware is going to do. I'll phrase it that way. The software that's going to end up on this thing is not going to exceed what the hardware can do for, let's say, 6 years. Should they still be selling the same product with the same chip 6 years from now? I think we can both agree no. I would much rather...
And that's what I mentioned. Like, now anyone who goes out and buys an Air has like a marginally more future-proof device, and that's good.
Right. And I would much rather Apple put the presumably most recent, or at least within a margin of error, most recent chip that they have into the new product and put that on store shelves. It doesn't have to be a big update. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. Just if you have something more current than what you used to sell with, yes, please put in the more current thing, assuming it doesn't have other compromises or sacrifices. And if it turns out that I could have bought I'm just going to make up a number. If buying a 13th gen is no better for me than buying a 12th gen, okay, then maybe I'll go buy a 12th gen for cheaper. Maybe I can just get by with a used 12th gen and be happier with that. And that's eliminating some waste that would have gone in otherwise. Alternatively, I can go buy a 13th gen and just hold on to it for even longer, because I'm not going to feel like it's getting old nearly as soon. At least not until the battery starts decaying. So yeah, I really don't have a problem with them putting in more modern hardware, as long as they're not attaching a higher price point for hardware that's not going to get used. Like, explicitly is just never going to get used. And from what we kind of know about the manufacturing and how they're handling all that, I get the impression that this is not really going to cost them anything. I'm pretty sure they're actually using bend down chips for these. So yeah, I think that this is totally okay. That being said, there's the other side of the discussion where what I'm talking about so far is what Apple should be doing in terms of producing a product for customers. There's the other side where what should customers be doing? Customers, you know what you should be doing. Go buy the previous generation for cheaper. I don't know if Apple's still selling them, but if you can find them elsewhere, go get that one. It's probably better.
Yeah.
Or not better, but it's probably cheaper, and you can just enjoy getting the same value for less. Now, granted, you're going to end up giving up like a year or so of or maybe more than a year of official updates at the end of this thing's life, but most people aren't really holding on to their iPads quite that long, or they hold on to them just past the end of life, and they'd probably be upgrading them around that time anyway, so it's probably not really affecting you.
They already get updated for so long, so
yeah, and it does depend. I mean, this obviously depends from one person to the next. Some people upgrade their hardware all the time. Other people will wait it out until like the official end of life plus 3 years, and somewhere in between is probably the right target to be on. In which case, you'll probably do fine on the previous generation iPad. And just in general, don't be
still good with the base.
Yeah. Then there is, of course, that side of it where should you get the base iPad? Should you get the iPad Air? Should you get an iPad Pro? Almost nobody really has a reason to get the Pro unless you specifically need the largest screen that there is.
Well, no, the Air comes in both 11 and 13 inch since the last gen.
Isn't there an iPad Pro that's a bigger screen than that?
Yeah, I think there might be a 14 inch Pro. I don't think so. iPad Pro. iPad Pro, buy iPad Pro. There's 11 and 13 inch.
Oh, okay.
And what is the Air? iPad Air. Pre-order 11 and 13. Okay, so it is the same.
Okay. All right, then fine. Then there's there is effectively no reason to get a Pro.
Well, the thing with the Pro that makes me upset is the Pro is the only one where they have an AMOLED or OLED screen.
Yeah.
And I would like a new iPad with an OLED screen, because the iPad I have now is old because I got it very cheap on Swappa because it had a dent in it, which I can't see when it's in the case, so it's fine. But also the battery's really old, and Apple apparently just doesn't do battery replacements on iPads. Neither does anyone else who makes tablets. So I would like a new 11-inch iPad with a nice screen on it for watching movies. But Apple will not sell me one unless it is a Pro that has, like, even the lowest I've seen it go on sale is like $800. Like, I'm not buying an iPad for $800. I'm sorry. That's Mac money. I can upgrade so many other things with that.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I'm upset about with the Air, is that they won't sell me an OLED one. Yeah, so that's the new Air, and it's fine. Again, I wish they would better use the hardware or put an OLED screen on it or add more ports or something that isn't just like making it slightly faster and slightly more future proof, but whatever. People are going to buy them anyway. So yeah, speaking of putting new chips in something and calling it a day, there's also a new Mac Studio. The Mac Studio had M2 Max and M2 Ultra chips, same as the Mac Pro. Apple has now updated them with, confusingly, an M4 Max as the base, like the lower one, and an M3 Ultra as the higher one. And this is currently the only Mac with that M3 Ultra in it, because they've not yet announced an update for the Mac Pro. And it's probably too power hungry to go in a laptop. So, yeah, the main thing here is just the new chips. The design is basically the same. I think they might. I know the number of USB ports you get varies by which chip you have. I didn't check to see if the differences line up between the different generations, but it has a lot of, it has Thunderbolt 5 on it. It has some normal USB-C and A ports. Still has like the SD card reader on the front, and because I believe it's the exact same identical size than like all of the form-fitting expansion things that like Satechi and other companies have made, should still work, I'm assuming. And yeah, the lower end model has the M4 Max, so this is like the highest of the current M series architecture. They mentioned that it has like their updated graphics pipeline, and they talk about in the press release how it's just a lot faster. Basically all their numbers are comparing it to the M1 Studio or one of the previous Intel iMacs or Mac Pros. So, obviously no reason really for most people with an M2 Mac Studio or probably M1 to get this. Depends on what you're doing. But yeah, just generally faster. And also the M4 Max model can be it starts at 36 gigs of memory with support for up to 128 gigs. So that's a lot of memory and a lot of cores for you to have a party with anything, graphic accelerated, very RAM heavy. One thing that Apple does mention in this press release is how Macs have become very popular for local AI models, because those benefit greatly from a lot of GPU power and mostly a lot of memory. And Apple is the one making computers that have a ton of memory that can be allocated for RAM. So I've occasionally checked down on like some of the AI discords that I have to not look at most of the time because all those people are really annoying. But sometimes I do check in and they're all talking about how much they love and buy Macs. So that's great for all those people. And again, if you're doing like crazy video editing or photo work, 3D modeling, whatever, pretty good. And beyond that, there is the model with the M3 Ultra. So it is a new super high tier Mac chip. It's just not like on the same architecture as the M4, but it's still like very overpowered. So the M3 Ultra Mac Studio starts with 96 gigs of memory, can be configured with up to 512, which Apple says is the most unified memory ever in a personal computer, and up to 16 terabytes of SSD storage. And obviously, because it's Thunderbolt, you can add like a lot more very fast storage if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And they even mention up to 16.9 times faster token generation when using an LLM with hundreds of billions of parameters in LM Studio compared to the M1 Ultra. And then they have some other benchmarks for like video editing, and they say up to 1.4 times faster 8K rendering in Final Cut Pro when compared with an M1 Ultra Mac Studio, or up to 4 times faster if you're coming from one of the Intel Mac Pros with a Radeon Pro graphics card. So just a lot of GPU and CPU cores on the Ultra. I believe it's up to 80 core GPU and up to 36 core CPU with 24 performance cores. And they have like different tiers of them. Like if you go into the Apple Store config page, there's like a couple different options for how many cores are each one. So it's not just like one M4 Max option and one M3 Ultra. There's like a range. So pretty good if you need like a super high-powered computer. If I had like oodles of money, I'd get one of these because they seem cool. Again, I still have my base M1 Mac Mini with 16 gigs of memory, and it's still great. Like I've the only time I've ever like come close to really pushing it is in some Final Cut edits, but it's not that big of a deal because I'm not doing it for my job. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so you can buy one of these if you need it, and yeah, I don't know if I have anything else. It's just like a very fast computer for the people who need it, and also also supports a lot of monitors. So maybe you don't need that GPU performance for Photoshop or Blender or whatever, but you can plug what Apple had a number in here that was kind of crazy. Let me see if I think it was display. Yeah. The M3 Ultra one, which is the higher tier, Mac Studio can drive up to 8 Pro Display XDRs at the full 6K resolution. So you just need a lot of monitors. There you go. You can do it.
And given the size of the Pro Display XDR, just the physical size of that, the notion of putting 8 of them in any sort of view is kind of madness. Of course, you could mirror displays and things like that, but
yeah, you're just approaching the like a Dark Knight desk of monitors.
Yeah, pretty much. It's gonna look pretty insane to have something like that in any sort of real scenario. And truthfully, I'd kill to see someone actually do this, just because it's pretty ridiculous. Like, I don't know that anyone actually can physically use 8 displays on their own, because just the space it would take and how much you'd have to sit back from them in order to see all the screens at any sort of usable angles. So yeah, but hey, you never know. I'm sure there's something cool about that, or maybe it could be used in I know no one will know this term, but like a video village situation where you're
I was about to say, like,
where you're on a movie set and you need some monitors facing one way, some facing another. You're going to have different things showing on all of them, and yeah, maybe in that scenario this makes some sense. But
yeah, I was about to say, I think it was an article I was reading about the dome thing in Vegas, and how they have like crazy PC setups with like a bunch of GPUs to power all those pixels. So things like that, of that nature.
Yeah, and
probably wouldn't use a Mac for that necessarily, but
well, yeah. Supposedly the cooling for the computers to run those displays is itself really egregiously expensive. Which, okay, you're in Vegas. Cooling things in Vegas is notoriously a bit of an issue. But I also find myself kind of questioning if that was one of those things where, did they have to do this, or was this somebody's idea to like run up the bill so they could also charge more on their own? Because that's kind of a famous tactic in Vegas, and like everywhere else too.
They really wanted a new gaming PC, and they're like, yeah, we need these NVIDIA GPUs for the big display.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so the one thing that was tripping me up trying to write about this computer is the going back and forth between I'm so sick of the Apple Silicon naming scheme. Every time I have to look up, like, is the Max better than the Ultra? And then there's like the one below that, I can't remember. This is like the one thing I'll give Intel, is they figured this out. There's just the i3 and the i5 and the i7, and at some point they put i9 in there. The rest of the naming scheme for the Intel chips is not good, but they figured out that basic component that helps me a lot. So
Okay, I agree with you that names as opposed to some sort of numbers to convey uh the tier of what it is. Yes, numbers are easier. I'm gonna one up your point by adding that on a on a thing that is gonna go inside of a product called Mac, you probably should not have named one of them Max, because that inherently is
yeah,
just
I did. That was a
awful.
typo I made in my article. I would type Max Studio.
Nice with the X. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so I think they really bungled a lot of that. Now that being said, if you're following Apple products reasonably closely on a regular basis, I feel like Pro, Max, and Ultra aren't that hard to keep separate in your head. Um, and moreover, I know that this will be a weird take, but I think it usually isn't supposed to matter. Now, right now it does because, of course, they have a Max and an Ultra both going into a computer, and that's the distinguishing thing. Um, Especially since they're two different generations for whatever reason. Um, but generally speaking, the two don't need to cross that much. Or, well, they might. We won't know for sure because right now there's only 3 computers that have ever had an Ultra in them. So, it'll become clear someday whether or not that's going to be more of an issue. But for right now, I'm inclined to think that someday the Ultra is probably going to just it'll be clear that it's relegated only to this very, very top tier set of devices. Meanwhile, the Max level chip is going to be more what people are probably just getting in the MacBook Pros and
Sure.
and iMacs when you can get a Max in those. I can't remember if you can get a Max in those.
I think they still only have the base chip.
Well, and the Pro, right? They
No,
have to have some
I don't.
Pros.
I'm gonna check. I believe the answer is no.
Oh my
I'm gonna
god.
I'm gonna go to the iMac page on the Apple Store, on the Education Store for some reason. Buy. Yeah, there's just base M4. You can't get a different chip in these.
That is honestly, I'm gonna call it embarrassing.
It's very weird because you can. I mean, I guess the logic is that the iMac is like the MacBook Air, but desktop, and Apple won't sell you a MacBook Air with a higher spec CPU chip. But it's still like, whatever.
I
It is
wonder if
pretty
they're
silly.
waiting to put out an iMac Pro that's going to include Pro and Max chips.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they just made the computer really thin because they can now, and that makes it harder to put anything that needs to be more actively cooled in there. I'm guessing. Not that much harder.
I mean,
but to
okay,
some degree.
I can get the argument for active cooling, sort of, though to be fair, you can run heat pipes through it. But I feel like I feel like that doesn't make a ton of sense because sure, is this thing technically thinner than a MacBook Pro? Yes, because the MacBook Pro has a screen. Or well, a folding screen. Aside from that, they're not really that much thinner. I feel like I don't buy that like if you can put it into a laptop, there's not really a good reason you can't put it into the iMac. But hey, whatever.
I'm sure it's a little bit of like column A design. Column B is like everyone buying these are for like doctors' offices, and no one's gonna buy a higher spec one.
Well, except
or fewer people.
the massive number of people that all want um that all do like design or video editing or color grading or any of those things. And so they want a top tier video editing rig or top tier photo editing rig with an Apple display, and you basically can't get those two things together right now
No.
unless you're willing to pony up for a
Yeah, that's the upgrade is you buy the Mac Studio and Apple's stupid monitor that costs a lot of money. That's the next level up.
oh, you think that, but what if I told you that hold on, let me double check this before I'm about to say that you're completely wrong.
It's been known to happen.
Yeah, you are in fact completely wrong. And here's why. Because you could also just go buy a Mac Mini, because they do offer a Pro there. An M4 Pro and a Mac Mini. So you can go buy for $1,400 an M4 Mac or M4 Pro Mac Mini. And then hold on. I needed to look this up too, and I kind of didn't. Okay, I'm on my way there very slowly. Oh, I forgot that this was a thing. Okay. So you spent $1,400 there. You can then pop over to the accessories section of the store, and for $1,600 buy the studio display. So for a nice round-ish total of $3,000, you can buy a Mac Mini with an Apple Studio display. And you now have a Pro level chip and a pretty nice display to go with it.
Yeah, and even though it doesn't look as cool as the super thin iMac and its singular build, the computer is the thing you can pop out and replace when you want to.
Yeah. I wanted to see, because I can't quite remember, how much is the absolutely outrageously priced Pro Display XDR? Yes, that's $6,000. Oh, sorry. My mistake. That's the one with the nano texture glass. You can knock it down to $5,000 with the standard glass.
That's a steal.
$1,000 for nano texture glass.
That's gonna cut into my egg budget.
Can we start talking about taking the drugs away from the people that price these things?
I'm buying the $6,000 monitor and a pair of wheels, and that's it. That's going on my desk.
And
okay,
that's the cost of a house.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pricing, there is a new last thing is new MacBook Air, which is also mostly a chip swap. So they put the M4 in there now. It's just the M4, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So same as before. Same. It looks like the exact same design. It's still, the current design language of Apple's sort of blocky hardware, and the notch, thing at the top. That's kind of silly. And yeah, it's M4. So you got your 10-core CPU, your 10-core GPU, up to 32 gigs of unified memory if you want it, and they say up to twice as fast as the M1 Air. Yeah. Although I do like that they also say when compared to the fastest Intel-based MacBook Air, it's up to 23 times faster.
Mm-hmm.
Which Yeah, I mean, it's good they threw that in because I'm sure there's still people with the Intel ones looking to upgrade, and that's an important fact. But it also mostly just points out like how terrible those were near the end. It's like how do we shove the x86 chip in this form factor we want? All right, throttle it way down. It's going way down.
Well, it doesn't help that they were also using a chip that was already old at that time.
Yeah, we're underclocking the fuck out of this.
That too.
I love computers.
So yeah,
So
this refresh also brings a air quote new color, sky blue. And
barely blue.
if we zoom in really close, closer than what you see on your screen, closer, keep zooming. You should probably touch your eye physically to the glass. And if you get really close, you might be able to see those blue pixels are lit up not at all more than they would be if this was just a damn silver laptop. It's silver. Anyway, so yeah,
Yeah, I'm begging Apple to make like more intense colors on their computers.
Okay. I agree. I want more intensity.
Yeah.
I want more saturation.
Mm-hmm.
I will throw in. Look, okay. I kind of think it'd be cool if you put one out in product red, but maybe not everything should be at that level of intensity.
Sure.
Product red is a
Right.
little on the extreme side, but
I see someone with the product red MacBook Air, and I'm like, "Are you bleeding out? Why? why is your laptop so?"
and if you're
Did you
not
get
bleeding out, why are you making my eyes bleed out?
Why'd you get the like Mountain Dew laptop?
Yeah, like it's one thing if your phone is product red. Okay, cheers. It's a different thing when if your laptop were to be product red. Anyway, that being said, just a little more color, a little and
Yeah.
look for wherever pastels would be, and go past that because that's not enough color. Go to something that's a nice look. I'm just saying, royal blue, a good,
Well,
nice,
they
rich purple.
do.
Um,
They know it looks good because they put the iMac in more fun colors than this.
yeah, just even copy the iMac colors. I mean,
Like
I'm a little iffy about some of those, but
like that yellow MacBook Air would probably go hard.
yeah,
Banana MacBook, come on.
the banana book.
They're a bunch of cowards because they won't make the banana book.
And look, I know, some of these are probably not really going to sell in big numbers. Okay, I get it. You're not going to make all the things, but try one. Look, so many people are a fan of blue. Imagine a nice kind of titanium blue that's not necessarily glossy. You don't need it to be reflective and mirrored or anything, but just something that's a good deep rich blue. So many people would buy it. I dare you, Apple. I dare you. And if it turns out I'm wrong, you know what? You can invite me on stage at the next Apple event, which you'll obviously also have to invite me to the event, so haha. But I'll go on stage and admit I was wrong. I'm willing to do that. But in the meantime, prove us wrong. Make the actual product and then tell us that we're wrong when no one buys it. I think people will buy it.
I really like on the config page for the MacBook Air, the little button you click to change the colors. You can't really see the colors because it's a like front view of the laptop. So all you see is like the little tiny sliver of the bottom bar changing colors and the wallpaper. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, make this some more fun colors, please. Also, the other thing besides the colors and the new chip is that it's cheaper. So this is starting price $1,000 buckaroonies, which is $100 less than where it was, and I believe the intention here is maybe this replaces. I think it was like the M2 MacBook you can't get anymore or something. Let me. If I go to the store and choose Mac, what did they get rid of? MacBook Air. Okay, I only see the current gen Air here. So did they stop selling the M2 and M3 entirely? Yes, Apple discontinues M2 and M3 MacBook Air.
Okay.
So yeah, so they made it cheaper because they got rid of the other cheaper options, which is kind of dumb, but also like it's also faster, more future proof. And I believe the cheapest that Apple was selling these for was like 800. So $100 difference gets you the absolute latest thing. I would still like them to have to keep doing the older models at lower price points, just because it's a lot more accessible, and especially given that these computers are very good for a long time. I'm still on my M1 Air. I don't have a reason to upgrade that. It's fine. I did like that for a while. They were selling the older generations for a lot longer at lower prices, but I don't know. Maybe they'll do sales for this or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm currently of the opinion that it's nice if they have the old stuff around at a lower price. And you know, I think it makes sense. That said, I find myself in the position of saying it's kind of nice if if it's not really going to make a difference to Apple in terms of like selling off old product, or you know, something that they could manufacture for cheaper that they can also then sell for cheaper, then like if it doesn't fit into that scenario, then yeah, go ahead, just put the newest stuff in there and sell only the newest stuff. Cheers to that. So I guess it kind of goes both ways. But also I have a feeling that they're probably just going to be very or not very quick, but reasonably quick to putting these on the market for or putting these out to stores that are willing to sell them for some sort of a discount. So
yeah, because the M2 and M3 have gone on sale for like $100 off a lot. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens there. Like I'd obviously wish there was. I still kind of wish Apple would try to make a laptop that's like something closer in price range to like an iPad. Like
so you're thinking like 600, $600 or $700.
Yeah, $700, something there that has like again, like you could throw an M1 or M2 in there. Like those are still really good hardware.
But I don't think there's any reason
everything else
should still
in that category.
I don't think there's any reason they should still be making M1s. I mean, yes, they're still good chips.
Right. I'm just saying, you know, if you have a sort of Texas Instruments situation where you have the warehouse full of them.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that they still have that. Maybe they do, but even if they do, and I've suggested this in previous episodes, maybe there's other things they could put them in, like actual brand new products where they don't necessarily need the newest hardware.
Right.
And it wouldn't really benefit them to put out the newest hardware, but they need something that's at least semi-powerful, and using up the old stock of like M1s would be just a fantastic use case. So I could see that being a scenario.
So Apple Watch with M1.
Well, I was thinking along the lines of, I don't know, maybe we'll just say like a oh damn it,
like Apple TV. Maybe.
Well, okay, yes, Apple TV was sort of in my mind, but I was gonna say and I keep forgetting the name of them. What are the speakers called?
Oh, the HomePods.
HomePod. I always want to call it
Yeah.
like Pod Max or something like that. Yeah, the
Also,
HomePods. It
if Apple ever went back into the router game, you could probably make a sick router with an M1.
Yeah, I think they're done with that though.
They're not going to do that.
Which is dumb.
Be kind of
that honestly, I think they really should be in that business. It was something a lot of people really liked, and it served their other interests really well. It's kind of insane to me that they don't want to do that, but hey, their choice. Really quick, you said that you were happy with your M1. Don't get me wrong, I think that makes sense, but at the same time, so glad that I got. I'm really glad that I went for a Max instead of just a base M1.
I mean, like if it
even
was
a Pro would have been a good choice.
Really, the only time I see us struggling is when it's something that is, like sustained performance, where it's thermal throttling because it's passively cooled,
right?
Which is understandable, or something. It's my Air is the M1 with 8 gigs of memory, so I have issues with the memory before CPU performance. But again, there's no games on Mac or and like none of my development stuff really, like I've done, when I'm visiting family, I've had like Parallels VM with web browsers running with like my Docker container of a web app on that. It's fine. It knows how to swap memory. Be a lot faster if I had more RAM, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I just find myself, and I know different people are going to have different opinions about this, but seeing as I'm looking at the extension I have that counts the number of browser tabs, and let's just say it's definitely in the triple digits.
I don't like
that. Yeah. But seeing as it's always in the triple digits, and I'd have to close quite a few to get down to double digits. Look, fact of the matter is, I don't feel it at all. And a big part of that, undeniably, is because Chrome is really good at that, basically sleeping tabs that aren't in use. So cheers to them. But a big part of it's also because I've got a good chunk more RAM on this, and when anything needs to spin up, the processor can actually handle it spectacularly well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that arrangement, and at this stage, no complaints there. I feel like going for an M1 Max when I did was a really good choice because it future-proofed the hell out of this laptop.
Yeah, I mean, it's Apple made him too good.
I actually don't agree with that, but I mean, they made him really good. It was a huge step over the Intels, no question to it. But I don't actually agree that they made them too good. I think they made them exactly the right amount of good. That around the same time, everyone used to feel like they needed to upgrade. They're not feeling it quite yet, but they feel that it's probably right around the corner. Because I started getting a little bit of that feeling, just barely, with the M3. But then I kind of noticed, no, that's kind of BS. Like, I'm not really interested in an M3. With an M4, I'm now having that feeling of, look, I'm really happy with my computer still, but I'm starting to wonder what I would get if I went to an M4. And I have a feeling the M5 is going to come out, and right around that time, I'm going to start feeling okay, you know what? Here are a few things that I'm doing, and they are actually starting to feel slower than I could have. And I might want something faster. Which means that right around the time the M6 hits, then I'll be like, yo, dog, here's my money. Please give me computer. I'm in all big time. And so, yeah, I don't think they made them too good. I think they made them just good enough that it's going to be like one extra year or one extra chip generation that everyone gets out of their purchase before they're ready to go for the next one.
And it mostly depended on the form factor. Like the
too.
People who were on those very sad Intel Airs were on the struggle bus long before the desktop Mac people. Diablo said if Apple does create a wireless router again, it would be lovely. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see them try. I mean, maybe they will now that they have like a modem. I don't know. Be interesting.
Could be.
So new MacBook Air, starting price $1,000 or $900 for education. I think like I would like there to be like a more mid-range option, but it's really hard for me to express how like you're getting a very, very, very good laptop for this price. Like I like anyone who does not like absolutely need Windows for something, like I would tell them to get some kind of MacBook Air, not even this one, like, you know, whatever they can afford and makes sense for them. Like they're just built very well. Again, the hardware in them is very good. They're just really nice computers, so I feel like, you know, if you can afford it, you're getting a computer that's gonna last you a long time and be reliable. That's not something I can say for a lot of Windows laptops at this price. Not out here recommending you buy whatever the Dell XPS 13 is called now.
Well, in general, not buying a Dell is probably advice that I'd give to most people.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's all the Macs. So we're out of topics.
Yes, we are. I don't really have much to add to that. I don't know that I would try if I did. Which I guess now circles us around to that time of the show where we talk about movies and other stuff for the next 3 hours. No, I'm absolutely kidding. I'm gonna take off and go to sleep. Corbin is I don't know, maybe doing the same.
Yeah, I'm gonna get food and then do a bunch of boring crap and then go to bed.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. So Corbin,
also maybe go on a walk because it's been like really ugly weather for a while, and I probably need to like leave my apartment because I've been really bad about that the past like 2 weeks. I haven't gone anywhere except to go watch the new Captain America movie.
Yeah, which is just more sitting, which, you know, it's
right. It's half credit for going outside. You know?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that's. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, all right. Was there anything that you wanted to pitch, plug, push, discuss?
I guess just go check out spacebar.news. I wrote a my Firefox is being janky at the moment. I'll put the link to this in the chat. I wrote an article about why small phones don't exist anymore, and it was fun to write. And
yep, it's because all the big phones ate them. The big phones were predators, and it was just an ecosystem that couldn't support both.
Yeah, you hate to see Darwinism at work, but it does happen sometimes.
Honestly, given the current political climate, no, I'd love to see Darwinism have all the time it likes. But that's a separate subject.
Also go into detail about how certain islands with isolated ecosystems has very large phones. But
boy, there's definitely a oddball China reference there. But okay, anyway, So with that, I will be back again this weekend with some game streams, Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, whatever it ends up being, or however much of each it ends up being. We'll find out when we're there. That of course, typically I'm starting about 4 o'clock, or between 4 and 4:30 Pacific time, and then both Corbin and I will be back next week on Wednesday with another RambleCast. And yeah, that's pretty much the plan. If you'd like to support the show, John Cho is actually asking you for money.
Support the churro.
So, anyway, if you'd like to support the show, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to supporters of the show: Diablo, David, Austin, Carson, and Curvy Mermaid. Y'all are awesome. And thanks again to Corbin for coming by, hanging out, and being chief chatter among us. So with that, I hope everyone has a good rest of the week. I will see you all in Discord and next time on this channel. Good night, everybody.
Bye.